33 years ago, on a chilly autumn morning, I held a delicate butterfly necklace in my trembling hands and fastened it around my daughter Emily's tiny neck. It was her 7th birthday, a small celebration shadowed by the weight of my hope that this token would keep her safe, a symbol of freedom and protection all at once. That same day, Emily vanished without a trace. Yesterday, as I lay in a sterile hospital room in Boston, struggling to breathe, a nurse gently placed an oxygen mask over my face. And then, my eyes caught something familiar, the shimmer of a butterfly pendant resting against her collarbone. It was the same butterfly necklace I had made for my daughter all those years ago. Suddenly, everything changed. My name is Margaret Ellis. I'm a retired literature professor, a mother who never stopped searching, never stopped hoping that one day Emily would come home. Even after decades filled with silence and uncertainty, my heart never gave up. But in that moment in the emergency room, with my body weak and my heart pounding, the impossible suddenly felt within reach. The nurse who cared for me was Rachel Morgan. She moved with practiced calm, steady, efficient, compassionate. 40 years old, a mother herself, and a trauma nurse who had faced more crises than most could imagine. But when her eyes met mine, something unspoken passed between us. Her fingers instinctively touched the pendant that hung from her neck, a delicate gold butterfly with turquoise enamel wings. I whispered the name I'd never said aloud in all these years, Emily. It slipped out like a prayer, fragile but charged with meaning. Rachel froze. Confusion flickered across her face, then a sudden flash of recognition. That butterfly necklace was hers too, the same necklace I had given my daughter on that tragic day, the same necklace she had never let go. She was found wandering alone near the Canadian border when she was 7, disoriented, silent, with no memory of who she was or where she came from. And her only possession? That butterfly necklace. As the nurses hurried to stabilize me, an unspoken story unfolded between Rachel and me, a story of lost years, broken memories, and a hope finally stirring to life. I'm sharing this not just as a mother's confession, but as a witness to a miracle born from grief. If this story touches something inside you, a hidden wound, a whispered hope, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell me where you're watching from. I want to know who's walking this path with me. That night, as I sat alone in my quiet home, the butterfly pendant felt heavier than ever against my skin. It was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a silent witness to a life I had only glimpsed in fragments and dreams. I had lived as Rachel Morgan for all my 40 years, a wife to Mark, a mother to 2 daughters, a trauma nurse who faced emergencies daily with steady hands and a calm heart. Yet beneath that life, there was always the question of who I was before, the part of me buried deep beneath memories I couldn't reach. My adoption story was always vague. I was found wandering near the Canadian border when I was 7 years old, mute, scared, with no memory of my past. The only thing I had was this necklace, the butterfly with turquoise wings, and inside it, a tiny inscription that I barely understood. Fly high, but remember the way. For years, those words had been a gentle comfort, a poetic phrase that felt like a wish from someone I never met. But now, after meeting Margaret in the hospital, those words took on a new meaning, almost like a message sent across time, urging me to remember who I really was. Sleep that night was fitful. Vivid images and feelings invaded my dreams. I saw a carousel spinning wildly, its colors blurring into one another. I heard a man's voice softly calling my name, Emily, though it felt both familiar and distant. Then came a choking sensation, a panic I couldn't explain. I woke up gasping, my fingers clutching the pendant as if it were an anchor in the storm. The next morning, Dr. Chen approached me quietly. "Margaret's asking for you again," she said. "She's lucid more than you think. She wants to talk, to tell you things that only she knows." I wasn't sure I was ready, but I knew I had to face whatever was coming. Sitting in that hospital room across from Margaret, I felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. Her eyes, though lined with years and pain, held a clarity I hadn't expected. Without hesitation, she reached for my necklace and pressed a nearly invisible button. The pendant popped open, revealing the secret compartment inside. And with surprising ease, she recited the inscription word for word, "Fly high, but remember the way." Then she pulled out a worn photograph of a blonde little girl with eyes just like mine. "That's Emily," she said softly. "She disappeared at Willow Park when she was 7. My husband Richard and I searched everywhere, but something stopped us. Someone blocked the investigation." Her words hit me like a wave. The years of my quiet questions and suppressed memories suddenly felt connected to a story far bigger than my own. I dug into my adoption files that afternoon, searching for any thread that might tie me to the girl in the photo. The police report was chilling in its detail. They found me near the Canadian border, just as I remembered. My hair had been dyed brown, likely to hide me. Tests revealed chemical sedation, something done to erase my memory. And no matter how many times the social workers tried, I clung tightly to that butterfly pendant. They said I refused to let it go. The coincidences stacked impossibly high. Margaret's voice stayed with me as I worked through the paperwork and the swirl of emotions. "You're not a replacement, Rachel," she said gently. "You're the daughter I lost and never stopped loving." For the first time, I felt the fragile threads of my past and present weaving together, not as two separate lives, but as one story, broken, painful, but undeniably mine. After weeks of sleepless nights filled with questions and haunting memories, I finally agreed to take the DNA test. I needed answers, even if they might shatter everything I thought I knew about myself. The day I got the call, my hands trembled so much I could barely hold the phone. The lab had confirmed what Margaret and I already hoped. I was Emily Ellis, the daughter lost to her family all those years ago. But this truth was far from a simple reunion. It stirred up a storm. Not long after the news broke, I met Daniel Ellis, the surviving son of Margaret and Richard Ellis. He was supposed to be my brother, but the chill in his voice made it clear he wasn't ready to accept me. Daniel was a lawyer, precise and guarded, wearing the weight of family secrets like armor. Sitting across from him in a small cafe, I searched his eyes for some sign of kindness or warmth. Instead, he offered doubt. "Mom's been through the lot," Daniel said. "She's seen this kind of thing before. Women who she thinks might be Emily. You have to understand she's fragile." I wanted to believe him. Maybe this was a cruel mistake, but there was something else, a flicker behind his eyes, that told me he knew more. Something he wasn't saying. Before I could ask, Daniel's phone buzzed. A message from an unexpected source, Martin Shaw, a retired FBI agent who'd worked my case years ago. I agreed to meet him, desperation outweighing fear. Martin was a man who carried the ghosts of decades on his shoulders. When he began to speak, his voice was heavy with regret. "Emily's case wasn't just lost to time," he told me. "It was buried." He pulled out folders, yellowed papers, and photos, each one another piece of a puzzle that had been hidden in plain sight. Witness statements were changed. Financial transactions between your father, Richard Ellis, and a man named Charles Denning vanished from the official record, and files linking your disappearance to your adoption removed. I sat frozen, every word slicing through me like a blade. And then the memories came rushing back, flashes of a man at the park that day, Charles Denning, the man who had promised to take me to my dad. His cologne heavy with tobacco and something sharp, his smile cold beneath the warmth he pretended. The truth I had been running from was now clear. Richard Ellis, the man I had always imagined as a protective father, had known more than he admitted. He had let me vanish, maybe to protect himself from dangerous enemies, maybe to send a warning, maybe because he was too afraid to fight. Before he died, Richard left behind a sealed letter addressed to me. "I thought I was protecting you," I read aloud, voice cracking. "But I was protecting my legacy. I lost you once to a stranger, and again to my own cowardice." Tears burned my eyes as I folded the letter. The man I had mourned had betrayed me in ways I couldn't yet fully understand. Later, Daniel met me again, his face shadowed with regret. "Dad told me pieces of the truth before he died," he confessed quietly. "But I chose to protect the family firm. The truth would have destroyed everything." I swallowed hard, my heart breaking all over again. "You didn't just protect Dad," I said, my voice low but steady. "You erased me." The betrayal felt like a physical wound, a fracture in the foundation of my life. But beneath the hurt, something else began to grow. A fierce determination to reclaim what was taken from me. The walls I had built to protect myself from the pain started to crumble. I knew the road ahead would be long and difficult. I would have to confront not only the past, but those who still guarded its darkest secrets. But I was ready, because finally, I had the truth. And with the truth, came the hope of healing. I'm Emily Rachel Morgan Ellis now. Saying those words aloud still feels strange, like stepping into a new skin that fits perfectly, yet still needs breaking in. When the DNA test confirmed it, I didn't lose who I was. I found a way to hold all of me together. The little girl who vanished and the woman who grew up in someone else's arms now live side by side in my heart. After years of silence, Margaret, the mother I never stopped searching for, became grandma to my daughters, Lily and Emma. They call her that now, with a warmth that surprises me every time. She laughs with Emma over books and tells stories with Lily, stitching our two worlds into one family quilt. Rebecca, Daniel's wife, invited me to speak at a nonprofit they helped start called the Butterfly Circle. It's a haven for families like ours, torn apart by loss but bound by hope. We offer support, counseling, and community to those navigating the painful process of reunion. Sharing my story there felt like turning pain into purpose. My work at the hospital shifted too. I moved toward psychiatric nursing, specializing in trauma and memory disorders. Helping others untangle their lost pasts became my mission. The butterfly pendant still hangs around my neck, no longer a secret but a symbol of transformation. It reminds me daily, butterflies don't go back to being caterpillars, and people don't go back to who they were before pain. We become something new, something beautiful. That's the real miracle. Daniel, who once guarded his heart behind cold walls, started coming to family therapy with me and Margaret. We didn't fix everything overnight, but at a quiet dinner one evening, he handed me a small box. Inside were my childhood drawings, carefully preserved by my father. The shaky letters spelled out Emily, surrounded by butterflies drawn in crayon, as if my younger self was trying to find her way back all along. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Daniel said quietly, "just a second chance to be your brother." It wasn't a grand gesture, but for me, it meant everything. If you've ever felt lost, whether through time, trauma, silence, or lies, I want you to know this. It's never too late to come home to who you really are. For years, I lived fragmented, half in a life I knew, half in shadows of a past I couldn't reach. The silence was deafening, and the questions without answers felt like a weight I carried alone. Maybe you've felt that too, that ache of missing pieces, the fear that you'll never be whole again. But here's what I've learned. Healing doesn't mean forgetting or replacing what was lost. Healing means weaving all the parts of yourself, pain, hope, memories, and dreams into a new, stronger whole. You are more than the hardships you've faced. You are more than the mistakes of others or the secrets kept from you. Every step you take toward truth, no matter how small, is a victory. Every moment you choose to embrace your story is a step toward freedom. And freedom begins with acceptance, accepting that your past shaped you, but it does not define your future. I want you to hold on to hope, to know that even when the road seems dark and uncertain, light can find its way in. Sometimes it comes through the people who reach out to you, sometimes through moments of quiet courage, and sometimes through the simple act of looking in the mirror and saying, "I am enough. You are not alone." There are others walking this journey with you, women like you who have faced loss, betrayal, and silence, but have found strength in their scars. Together, we build a community where stories heal, hearts mend, and new beginnings are possible. So, if you're ready, take that step. Tell your story, share your truth, because your voice matters, and you deserve to come home to yourself, to peace, and to love. I'm Emily. I'm Rachel. I'm a mother, a daughter, a survivor, and I finally remember the way. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments. Your voice matters more than you know.